Pleased to meet you. Thank you for coming to this socially distanced talk with me about a small problem that my husband Uriel and I are having because of this COVID business.
Very nice to meet you too. My name's Erin Krokovic and I'm here to help if I can. Do you want to start by telling me a little bit about your business?
Sure, I love talking about Are You Ready to Rumble? My husband Uriel and I started Are You Ready to Rumble in 2008. We have a strong belief that all people should be ready to look after themselves when the government fails. And we had good information that the world would end on 21 December 2012.
Really? What good information did you have for that?
Well, the Mayan calendar ended on that date. And because the Mayan calendar is so central to modern date calculations, it was clear that the world would end.
But since most modern calendars are based upon, I think, Pope Gregory's calendar, that's why the world didn't end?
Yeah, probably, but we did sell a lot of prepping gear. You see, preppers really enjoy the feeling of safety and smugness that comes from being prepared to wait out the end of the world in their bunker. And 2012 gave a great opportunity to be worried and then to deal with that worry.
I think I can understand that.
In the lead up to 2012 and with the release of the movie in 2009 especially, our sales of freeze-dried meals and waterproof trousers and camouflage shirts absolutely boomed.
I'm guessing you were expecting it to perhaps be very unfashionable and perhaps flatulent in those bunkers.
No, bunkers have great ventilation. Anyway, there was no Mayan apocalypse, at least not since the year 900, and our sales plummeted. The only way it could have been worse was if there was an apocalypse. The preppers had years' worth of supplies to get through.
So what did you do to survive since then?
We refocused upon providing high quality, appropriately priced camping gear with excellent advice from really well-informed and slightly paranoid sales staff.
It's actually not a bad way to go. People like camping don't mind paying for quality equipment.
Uriel and I have had steady business for years. Catering to camping in Tasmania is not a bad move. And then there was a mention of a virus in Wuhan on the news. Just a small mention. Viruses don't often get much news play, apart from Ebola, and they're always a long way from Launceston. But Tasmania's preppers recognised an opportunity to restock their shelters without their partners yelling at them or their kids making fun of them.
Must have been a pretty busy time for you.
Very busy. We made 5 years worth of sales between December 2019 and March 2020. And then the Tasmanian government closed us down. It was outrageous. They said we were a non-essential service, that the national parks were shut and there was no need for camping equipment. We are completely set up to help people through times of disaster. And we were sitting in here in a closed shop watching cruise ship passengers on the news spread COVID around the country.
Perhaps you should have gone into homemade toilet paper, but it's a pretty scary time. We had to work from home, but I'm also really sure it was a tough time for those running shops.
We've spent years building robust supply lines from various parts of the world for our hardware. Our shipments kept coming in through the worst of the shutdowns. Our freeze-dried food is sourced locally from Scottsdale. That was still available, and yet we had no means of selling these goods to the public when they needed it the most during a global pandemic.
So why didn't you just start selling through your website?
Come on, we're not fools. The government can track people on the internet. We have a strict cash-only policy in the store. We don't own mobile phones. We do our tax on paper. If we were e-sellouts, then our preppers wouldn't want to do business with us. We're careful with our information and we're careful with our customers' information. We don't collect it. And you know how this is paid off?
No, how?
People are buying inferior products from Allgoods just up the road because they have a website and they engage in e-commerce, the sellouts.
Well, that then raises quite an important question then. What do you think we can do for you if not for some sort of e-commerce application?
Have you heard of the dark web?
Yes.
That's where we want to be. We want to be the biggest provider of preparation paraphernalia on the dark web. You want to Google that? Well, you can't because we're not on Google.
Okay. Well, our firm's not that experienced with the dark web, but we can certainly learn about how to do that. I think it may involve in using a .onion domain name and the Tor hidden service protocol instead of the DNS.
I'm sorry, I don't understand, tech nerd.
Rude. And how are you intending to accept payments through the dark web?
Same as all the drug dealers, Bitcoin.
Oh, maybe I should have stayed in bed this morning. Okay, Bitcoin is definitely well set up for secure purchasing. There are a bunch of Bitcoin payment processing providers. We just have to include it on your website.
When you say website, you mean dark website, right?
As far as I know at this point, they're all the same, just accessed differently.
Cool.
And how will you see your website working?
I don't do online shopping because I don't have the internet or a credit card. So I'm not that familiar with what online shopping looks like. But I'd want our website to be like any other online shopping site, except hidden, secure, and secretive.
Well, I think that's well within our capabilities. If you were to describe the things that you actually want and don't want, then that would be helpful to us.
We want a website on the dark web. I don't know how to make that happen, but I'd like you to do what it takes to make that happen. I want to be able to change the stock and the prices as new things become available or stop being available.
Okay. Do you have a stock control system that we could automatically update when you sell something, or if things aren't for sale that you don't have for stock doesn't appear?
It's all paper-based. Depending upon how well we go, we might implement an electronic stock control system in the future. Also, I want you to implement the payment system through Bitcoin. I don't have any more knowledge of the topic. You'll need to do what's necessary to make things happen.
Okay. To run a website, you really need a database.
Uh-oh.
But a database can be stored encrypted on the cloud. This doesn't need to be a problem.
The cloud is a problem for me, but if it's necessary, make it happen. Tasmanians need our products.
Okay, actually, that was my next question. Who are your stakeholders?
I guess Uriel and I are as the owners, maybe our customers.
Yeah, tell me about your customers.
They're all ages, but generally scared of the world, especially the world as it changes. Tasmania is a great place for preppers, but they're not well suited to a globalized world with big changes coming from things like COVID and climate change. But Tasmania is a great place to be insulated from change, at least for a while.
Okay, and just for my own peace of mind, what about the crazy conspiracy theorists and QAnon? We do have ethical standards that we have to work within.
We have plenty of crazy conspiracy theorists, but QAnon are just ignorant racists. The bucket of crazy is even crazier than we are.
That's really good to know. What about your suppliers? Are you interested in joining online supply chain management software?
You may have noticed that with just-in-time supply chains, Tasmanians have been using gum leaves as toilet paper for weeks. Our supply chains are still delivering, and our suppliers wouldn't buy into that rubbish. They wouldn't want the government watching.
Just for the record, plenty of toilet paper. I've never resorted to gum leaves.
Oh, I quite like them.
Are there any other projects that you're involved with in which this one will need to work with?
No, this is all we have. We're putting all of our eggs in this basket. We're prepared, of course, but we're trusting in you to make this work.
Okay, and if this works, what's this going to look like? How will you judge this new dark website to be a success or not?
That's a pretty personal question, but I'll tell you because I like you. Currently, we can't sell anything. We're closed. Within a month, we want to be at 50% of our pre-shutdown sales. That's around $35,000 revenue and $10,000 profit per month. We want our usual customer base to be interacting with our website. So we would expect our usual 400 daily visits within the first month. And then as our reputation grows as a secret online provider of prepper goods, that might start to grow, but I'm not sure how that would look.
Okay, and what about any disbenefits? Things that will go wrong because you've moved online?
Well, to start with, we've always used Australia Post for anyone who has posted their order and cash through to us. We're quite efficient in that, and we usually get stuff posted out on the same day. If we're posting everything, I think our response will shrink to 48 hours. If this is a huge success, we'll need to employ someone, and that will be an additional cost.
Okay, and how long do we have to do this project for you?
We need it as soon as possible. We don't have any income, And we're not signing up to that government scheme. They'd only put trackers on us.
Okay. What's your budget?
Well, what's it going to cost?
Given the range of technologies that we're not familiar with and the additional layers of secrecy and security, this project's going to cost you around $50,000.
Okay, well, that's a little less than I'd budgeted for, so that's good.
Okay, but one more thing that has been worrying me. How do you intend to pay us?
Do you accept cash?